Madam Chairman, Mr. Price, members of the subcommittee. Before I begin, I just want to say a few words to Mr. Rojas. First, I'm very sorry for your loss. The type of conditions that you describe in your stepfather's workplace, the attitude of putting speed and production before safety, not listening to the health and safety concerns that the workers raise, these are the type of things that this administration will not tolerate. We are not only sending a strong message to employers who cut corners on safety, but because OSHA can't be everywhere all the time, we also need to work much harder to make sure that workers have the tools they need to ensure that their workplaces are safe and that OSHA is there to make sure that that happens. I want to thank you for coming here today. Madam Chairman, thank you very much for this opportunity to discuss the Occupational Safety and Health Administration's Enhanced Enforcement Program and to respond to the concerns expressed by the Department of Labor's Office of Inspector General in its March 31st report. President Obama and Secretary of Labor Hilda Solis have both publicly expressed their desire that OSHA be more vigorous in protecting the nation's workers. OSHA employs some of the most dedicated and hardest working employees in the federal government, and under the leadership of Secretary Solis, they are eager to do their jobs of protecting the American workforce. I intend to help lead this agency in achieving that goal. Despite the brevity of my tenure at OSHA, I have had time to fully review and analyze the OIG's report. I do agree with the recommendations in the report, and both agency staff and I share the concerns of the report. Properly identifying employers who should be subject to the EEP is essential. Similarly, it is not acceptable to fail to follow through with inspections or enhanced settlement agreements with employers that OSHA has placed on the EEP. OSHA's targeted inspection efforts consist primarily of a site-specific targeting system that focuses on establishments with high injury and illness rates and both local and national emphasis programs. The Enhanced Enforcement Program was designed to supplement these programs and to focus enforcement efforts on recalcitrant employers. The EEP was initiated in September 2003 to help OSHA focus its resources on those employers who were indifferent to their obligations under the OSHA Act, concentrating limited enforcement assets on employers who not only failed to meet their obligations under the OSHA Act, but who also appeared unlikely to decide on their own to improve working conditions at their workplaces. OSHA had discovered that a number of employers continued to expose workers to very serious dangers even after having received OSHA citations for worker exposure to hazards that cause serious injuries and fatalities. Such was the case at McWane facilities as reported in the New York Times and Frontline in 2003. In 2008, the EEP was amended in response to OSHA staff concerns that the program was not consistently accomplishing its purpose to focus on recalcitrant employers. However, it soon became clear that additional program modifications would be needed to better direct resources and that more stringent follow-up inspection criteria needed to be added to the program. OSHA staff began revisions in March of 2008 and was in the process of developing those revisions prior to the OIG evaluation. Obviously, in order for the EEP to be effective, OSHA area, regional, and national offices must accurately identify which employers are in need of enhanced enforcement and then apply its enhanced enforcement tools to those recalcitrant employers. The OIG report pointed out that this has not always occurred. I assure you that OSHA is already hard at work rectifying the weaknesses identified in the OIG report. The agency has established a task force to revise the EEP, which will design a new program, which we are preliminarily renaming the Severe Violators Inspection Program, which will be a comprehensive revision of the existing EEP. Although the details are still being worked out, the new program will ensure that recalcitrant employers not meeting their obligations under the OSHA Act are targeted for additional enforcement action and will focus more on large companies and less on small businesses. Some changes under consideration for the program include mandatory, not recommended, follow-up inspections, more inspections of other establishments of an identified company, and additional enhanced settlement provisions. The new program will include a more intensive examination of the employer's history for systemic problems that would trigger additional mandatory inspections. The new program would undergo continual review and improvements will be made while deficiencies are identified. I believe that this new program will address each of the 6 OIG recommendations. I want to emphasize that while the OIG report identified serious problems within the EEP process also made OSHA more aware of criminal violations. Referrals of potentially criminal willful violations to the Department of Justice for prosecution increased from 6 per year from 1993 to 2003 to 12 cases in fiscal year 2008. Although the EP is an important component of OSHA's overall compliance strategy, it is not the only enforcement tool that we utilize, nor is it the main tool that OSHA utilizes. OSHA's main inspection strategy focuses primarily on its LEPs and NEPs, as well as the site-specific targeting program for the vast majority of its enforcement work. Currently, there are NEPs focusing on the hazards of combustible dust, amputations, lead, shipbreaking, crystal and silica, and trenching and excavation. We're also finalizing the NEP program on flavoring chemicals. Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.